Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking the epic, absolutely insane chronological journey of Roken. If you don't know the name, he's a player known and feared as the King of Violence. And look, this is a story that takes your classic progression fantasy and just completely flips it on its head. We're going to track his rise, his ruthless strategies, and a massive, reality-bending twist that changes absolutely everything you think you know about this world.
Right out of the gate, I need you to drop whatever assumptions you have about virtual reality stories. Just ask yourself, what if the NPCs you killed were actually real? I mean, usually, in these types of VR worlds, there's zero risk, right? You die, you respawn, you try again. Who cares? But keep that question in the back of your mind as we go through Roken's journey today, because the stakes in this universe are infinitely higher than a simple game over screen.
So to really understand Roken, we have to look at his timeline. By the year 2024, he was an unstoppable SS solo ranker in the game Lord. I'm talking an absolute menace, decimating entire top-tier guilds single-handedly. But, as you know, a lone wolf makes a lot of enemies. The #1 ranked player, Odin, also known as the King of Creation, gathered 300 of the strongest players and used every overpowered item they had just to trap Roken. And they didn't just kill him once. They killed him 8 times in a row, stripping his levels until he was completely erased from the rankings. But instead of that being the end, Roken wakes up. It's 2021. He's 3 years in the past. And he has exactly 1 month before the game officially launches to plan out his brutal revenge.
Which brings us to part 1 of his plan, breaking the tutorial.
See, Roken isn't just going to play the game. He is going to entirely exploit its hyper-realism. He's got the ultimate weapon now, right? Future knowledge. He knows that mastering actual martial arts and understanding the in-game physics will give him a massive edge over players who are just relying on a keyboard and mouse. So in the opening Goblin tutorial, the objective is literally just to flee the village. Roken completely ignores that. Instead, he stacks dexterity and strength potions, turning himself into an absolute powerhouse right off the bat. When the overpowered level 15 Goblin boss shows up, Roken doesn't even fight it head-on. Relying on that hyper-realism I mentioned, he throws his axe, not at the Goblin, but at a wooden support beam. He crushes the boss beneath a collapsing house. He literally uses the environment to do his dirty work.
Because of these insane exploits, Roken secures ridiculous power spikes right immediately. He earns these epic titles like Descendant of David, 17-1, and nothing is impossible. But his next major buff requires something kind of unhinged. Instead of doing normal quests, he locks himself in a secret underground training room for 5 days straight. 5 days! Just secretly destroying training dummies that actually fight back. He pushes his stats to the absolute limit at level 1, earning the incredibly rare Unbreakable Resolve title, which boosts his stats by a whopping 50% right before death.
And that perfectly sets up his next phase, waging a forest war.
With his foundational stats completely maxed out, Roken selects the Berserker class and heads straight into the forest. Now, as a newly minted Berserker, Roken decides to orchestrate an entire geopolitical conflict between 2 rival factions, the Honorable Orcs and the Brutal Savages. And you guys, here's how wonderfully petty and brilliant the setup is. Roken wants a very specific reward that requires eliminating both tribal leaders. So first, he borrows an axe from the Orcs. Then he sneaks over and brutally takes down a savage, leaving that orc axe behind as proof. This framing ignites a massive, bloody faction war. While the 2 armies are out there slaughtering each other, Roken is just waiting in the shadows. Once the savage chief is wounded from killing the orc chief, Roken swoops in, assassinates him, and claims the ultimate victory over both sides.
For orchestrating all of this chaos, he earns the Conqueror of the Forest title. This gives him a rare, massive stat multiplier while fighting in the woods. And honestly, it proves exactly why staying a solo berserker makes him so incredibly overpowered. He doesn't need an army, he doesn't need a guild. He is essentially a one-man tactical nuke, bending the game's AI completely to his will.
But, of course, that kind of chaos attracts attention. Which brings us to Section 3, Crushing the Player Killers. Roken's path of destruction eventually crosses with a notorious player-killer guild known as the Blood Hunters. These guys make a living out of extorting and murdering weaker players, and they make the very fatal mistake of targeting Roken. What follows is an absolute cinematic showdown. They bring an army, literally 100 coordinated PKers, including this fire magic swordsman named Helios who unleashes a massive, devastating explosion. So it's 100 heavily armed players against 1 level 35 solo berserker. But Roken completely humiliates them. Using his speed, the environment, and his newly acquired lion armor, he just slices through their ranks, survives Helios' ultimate attack, and completely wipes the guild off the map.
But the Blood Hunters have a trump card. Enter Cabal. He's a future top-tier ranker for Odin's guild, and he's wielding an insanely rare hidden class, Shadow Mage. By absorbing the shadows on the battlefield, Cabal can sense every single movement, he can create flawless physical shadow clones, and he inflicts a sacred paralysis poison that drains 30% of his target's health every 10 seconds. This right here is the first true terrifying threat Rokon actually faces in this timeline.
This fight is brutal. It is completely down to the wire. Rokon activates his Berserker mode, giving him just 10 minutes of immense power before the backlash literally kills him. Poisoned and surrounded by all these shadows, he just ignores the fake clones, taking heavy damage on purpose just to find Cabal's real body. With only 10 seconds left on his timer, inches from death, Rokon uses a cheap, low-level lightning orb he bought way earlier. The sudden flash stuns the Shadow Mage, creating just a split-second opening. And with exactly 5 seconds remaining, Rokon delivers a devastating one-hit kill. Defeated in-game, the Blood Hunters and their allies try to destroy Rokon in the real world. A guild leader named Pyrrha orchestrates this massive PR smear campaign, releasing edited videos calling Rokon a hacker who uses illegal programs. But Rokon just effortlessly destroys this narrative. In a live, incredibly arrogant interview, he points out that they already reported him to the game admins days ago, and the admins totally cleared him. He literally challenges the audience, saying, "Go ahead and report me again." It is a total masterclass in controlling the narrative.
But right after this massive triumph, the tone of our story shifts entirely. Enter the Emperor of Sand.
So Rokon ventures into a new territory, the corrupted Curus Empire. Now up until this point, Rokon has basically just been having fun playing a game, seeking his revenge, right? But once he uncovers the ancient corrupted pyramids of the Curus Empire, the stakes suddenly stop feeling like just pixels on a screen. The scene is genuinely horrifying. Dark obelisks rise from the ground all across the city. Terrified citizens are snared by this green essence, and their life force is literally being drained away to fuel a massive resurrection ritual for a corrupted, ancient being. Rokon engages the Emperor of Sand, the Scorpion King, trying to protect the city's inhabitants, specifically a young girl named Rufi and a mother named Arma. The battle is visceral, it's desperate. The boss mutates, gaining rapid healing and instant speed. And for the first time, Rokon doesn't just lose, he's completely broken. He suffers catastrophic injuries, missing a hand, bearing a massive chest wound, literally lying in a pool of blood. He is left entirely helpless, begging the NPCs he came to save to just run away. He feels genuine, crushing despair.
Which brings us to the ultimate truth of this explainer. The game is real.
You might be wondering, why did Rokon feel such intense, real emotional pain seeing these NPCs in danger? Why did this specific encounter feel so vastly different from everything else? Well, in the real world, Rokon is intercepted by a mysterious woman, Agent Mariah. She leads him into a highly secure facility and drops the ultimate world-shattering revelation on him. After interfering with the rift, you are no longer an ordinary player. She shows him live surveillance of the Q's Empire, of Arma and the surviving citizens, playing out on real-world monitors.
Here is the massive secret. There is no game. The super modern VR capsule everybody's plugged into, it's actually a physical gate connecting to alternate, parallel dimensions. Every single server is a real place. Every NPC getting cut in half is a real, living being. The King of Violence hasn't just been out there wiping pixels. He has been ending thousands of actual lives. The people he failed to protect in the desert, they were real humans in another universe.
So Rokon is drafted as an official ranker, tasked with exploring this rift to protect both worlds. But this leaves us with a lingering, provocative question. Rokon regressed to get revenge on Odin in a video game, but now that he knows every fight, every blade, and every single death is grounded in stark, alternate reality, will his blind quest for vengeance against the strongest players on Earth ultimately cost him his actual physical life? Seriously, what would you do if the game you spent years mastering turned out to be real? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning reality.